Hello, and welcome to our weekly astrological transits. Well, this week, actually today, we just officially start into our Pisces season. We can see the sun over here at 0 degrees Pisces, and it joins the pack. Mercury has already gone into Pisces. Neptune has been here a while. Saturn has been here a year and a half. The North Node recently moved into Pisces. And Venus finally moved out of Pisces, which she'll move back into it after she gets into her retrograde. But we have this pack of disillusionment, confusion, um, illusion, fantasy, dissolving, nebulous, lies, fantasy, artistic endeavors, intuition. It's a big net. And, there's always the bright side and the dark side of everything. The highest potential and then the yuckiest part of things. And that's, the whole gamut. It's, I think, important to just realize that whole thing. And especially when we have a confusing time, we have definitely a very confusing time. We can see um, how much confusion is now starting to pile on into the world with information. If you're, not following down some rabbit holes and really checking on things, you can be really confused. If you're checking leads and, it's like, nope, this isn't it. Nope, that's not it. Nope, that's not it. You're finding things rather than being ruled by the mass of psychosis, of delusion. So that being said, as the moon moves into Pisces, though, it's going to add to the confusion and the chaos. So we're going to be in this at least for another month. But then, all of this is going to clear out, and in within a few months, it's going to be a whole different ballgame. It already kind of is. That being said, our moon this week goes through. We're starting this week with, with solid moon in Scorpio, and moon in Scorpio is in its fall. Moon does not like to be there. It's exalted, loves to be in Taurus, but it just does not like to be in Scorpio. So moon starts out in Scorpio, being investigative, being very um wary, being very watery, being fixed. Moon and Scorpio can be um, on guard. It can be a little testy. Um, it could be kind of yucky, on some levels. It could be prying. It could be clingy. It could be any of those scorpionic type tendencies meshing with a vulnerable moon or kind of a vulnerable emotional place. So that's kind of where we come into it. But what's nice about that is the moon is starting out its little journey in Scorpio. It will be making, trines over to all the planets in Pisces. So right here, it's like earlier today, as it was, starting early today. What do we about? I put this like 9 a.m. So because I wanted to show you something tomorrow. Anyway, early when it went into there, it was, trining over to the sun. And then at like 9 in the morning here, it's trining over to Mercury. And then as we go on, which will be next day, tomorrow, I'll show you something else. Um, but we're gonna pick up on the trine to all these planets as the moon moves through, Scorpio, which will be nice. And then as it gets to about the middle degrees, it will trine over to Mars. And then we can see that once it gets really close to the middle degrees, it will be making a grand trine over to Saturn and Mars, which I'll get there in just a second. But you can, always jump ahead a little bit and see that the moon moving through here will be, again, in and of itself, investigative, and anything from there to testy and pushy and clingy and stuck kind of feeling or cornering something or being pressured by something. So just it will pass. Okay, so this is where we come into it today, and then the sun again leaving Aquarius, moving into Pisces. Now, moving ahead, we can see now the moon here tomorrow. It's starting East Coast time in the morning. We could see here moon like 18 degrees, Saturn 19, and Mars 17. It's all within that orb. So moon will be making perfect degrees there. So what is that? That trine, it's a water trine. So things can be even more nebulous. Things can be more fuzzy. Things can be more dissolving, and then we have emotional energy, and then we have structure energy with Saturn, and then we have, the drive with Mars. So it's, you know, that drive is toward home and country and anything that you call home and family, that's where that drive is. And the overlording Saturn kind of is in Pisces. So it wants to dissolve, it wants to take down the structure, it wants to get rid of all the things that are not necessary, but it may not know how to do it. It may be too close, too nebulous there to do that. But anyway, there's a grand trine in effect, and it could be very nice, very loving. Pisces is very loving, very compassionate. I don't want to trip off on the bad side of it, but it does easily go out of hand. It's not something that's going to stay altruistic and wonderful, just a word to the wise. But it is nice if we can use it for universal love, for really just understanding other people, the other point of view, and having compassion. All right, so maybe that's kind of some deep centered meditations that we can have tomorrow, Wednesday. All right, moving on. Anything else Wednesday? I already said that the moon is going to be making trines to all of this. So over to Mercury, moon to Mercury is like emotions and thoughts, and then the thoughts are kind of wonky and nebulous and not real concrete. So it could be miscommunications. So maybe it's not the time for really trying to explain. If you can't just flow with something, maybe wait till the moon changes. And then moon over to Saturn. Saturn is always kind of intrepid, is sort of always sort of feeling like you're looking over your shoulder. So Moon is still not going to be real comfortable here, even though it's dissolving. And then over to Neptune, it'd probably be sleepy and dreamy and intuitive and more prone to fantasy, but it could also be deceived at that same time. And then over to the North Node, oh, every month it heads over, we have some kind of a trine over to there. So maybe where you think you're heading is not really where you are, or where something seems to be, it may not pan out. All right, so that's just, the moon going through all of that. And then making aspects over, with Mars. This could be being defensive, um, striking out, be defensive about something about your home or your space or your country or anything that feels, your family, um, getting a little bit testy with things. So watch that, or maybe aim it if it's needed. All right, Thursday, kind of an interesting day. Moon moves into Sagittarius, which, maybe picks up a little bit of that upbeat energy. We have that it's greener, it's shiny, it's over there. It's, oh, let's go over there. Let's try this. If this isn't working, this must be good. It's really instills hope, where sometimes things get really bogged down in Scorpio. Sometimes you can investigate and use that energy really well, but then sometimes it can just, because of the moon, and the moon is sensitive, it can get hypersensitive. So it could feel like a breath of fresh air, coming into Thursday, Friday, and part of Saturday when the moon's in Sag. But then we also have, with the Mercury over here making a square to Jupiter. So we have both the mutable signs. It could be distorted news. It could be unreliable communications. It could be unreliable news or documents or something that comes out. And what's interesting about this is that they're in mutual reception. So Mercury would, the ruler of Mercury is Gemini, and that's where Jupiter is. And the ruler, or where Jupiter rules would be Pisces, and that's where Mercury is. So they would rather be in each other's signs. So they can either be commiserating, they're both in their detriment, but um, it could be, how do I say it? It's either it could go one way or the other. It could either be you see through the lies because you could see through that space, or you're totally schmoozed and fooled and like hoodwinked and just get the unreliable distortion of it. That's probably how it's more going to go, just because of the nature of Mercury and Pisces. And then it could be on a large level. It could be some kind of a lie or some kind of a false flag or something. So this week we really, really have to be careful of like what we hear. Um, anything could be orchestrated or calculated or planned on purpose. That's the kind of the phrase I was thinking of, being planned on purpose. And it's large, with when Mercury, it could be a large communication of something planned on purpose, large communication, you know, uh, Jupiter in Mercury sign, it's in Gemini, and then we have Mercury making a fuzzy aspect to it, or a square, but in a fuzzy sign. So it could be muddying the waters. So just really keep eyes and ears and stuff open. Follow the information, follow your intuition, and then kind of see where things fluff out. Get alternative media sources for sure. All right. Moon, there we go in here. Anything else on that day? I need to talk to you about Thursday. No, that was it. All right, going on to the next day. Friday, um, mainly moon aspects. We have the moon in fiery Sag makes, a trine over to Venus. That'll be nice, kind of add some nice fire energy there. Give Venus a little bit of a lift. The moon will also oppose uh, Jupiter. So there could be part of that stuff that started the day before could be um, what's the word I want? It could be exaggerated. There we go. It could be exemplified, exaggerated. It could be blown out of proportion a little bit there. And then it's going to square, Moon will square over to Mercury. You can see here too. So we still have blowing it out of proportion, Sagittarius, Mercury, distorted communications, with the Moon, we have as a T square, right? These Moon and Jupiter are opposing, and then we've got Mercury as being in that T axis there. So this could be very stressful when the moon clicks into that, all day on Friday. It could be kind of coming into it. And then you have the events that happened, and then you have the aftermath of some of that, whatever that is. Could be in your life, could be in the world, but things definitely at those degrees in your chart could instigate some things. All right, Saturday, coming into Saturday. Moon later in the day, let's go hours, let's go. See, when is it going to switch sides? There we go. Move. So I want to get it up. Oh, we already missed it. Yeah, it's late that it switches signs. So like late Saturday, here's 7:30, 6:30. Yeah, so late in the day, it moves, it moves into Capricorn. So West Coast time a little bit earlier in the day, East Coast time late in the day. So get starting into like Saturday night. Maybe Saturday night isn't the best party night because, it's a Capricorn moon. It makes things more serious, brings the tone down, makes it more serious, responsible, controlling, disciplined, and it's just maybe not the best time for that. And then we've got Neptune, going right on the north node here. So this is just right there. So this is good for dissolving things, right at this time. Moon and, in Sirius Capricorn, and then we have the dissolvingness of Neptune. So that could be focusing on maybe getting rid of things that aren't working, or outdated things or things that are no longer serving purpose there in your life because it's going toward the north node of where you're going, and Neptune is dissolving that, being in Pisces. Okay, going on into Sunday. Sunday, we have Mars stationing direct. So we hear it's up there on station. So it is moved to the farthest, retrograde, 17 degrees, and then it will start moving, further into the sign and go back into Leo. So it's been hanging out here for a couple weeks, right in these late degrees, and it's very powerful. When planets station direct or retrograde, they're very powerful, they're strong, making that transition. So Mars is really strong. There is some really unified force in home, family, and country, and it's going to gain momentum. All right. So that is Sunday. What else is Sunday? You can also find your energies coming back too. When Mars is retrograde, it's maybe not so outward and you don't feel so much like doing things. So with it going direct, it's not going to happen all at once like a switch, but you will notice a little bit different energy. And as it gains momentum going forward, it will, because it's still in Cancer, you'll probably feel more like doing things around the home, repairs, improvements, cleaning that drawer, disinfecting those things. Getting rid of things in the closet, just tidying up, making things more livable, and, in the world as well. It's reflecting, the energy to go through and make these huge sweeping changes. Um, Things that are definitely happening. Uh, what else here? Moon, get through the day. Here we go down here. So it's going to be making squares over to Venus. So there could be, some confront of dealing with stuff you don't need, which is good. It will also make a quincunx over to up here to Jupiter. So that also could be trimming the fat and getting rid of, large, things you don't need, things that are not serving your purpose. Again, we could have it with people, with things that are uh, not useful to you anymore. That's because that moon feeling, Capricorn, being diligent, being, to the facts, what's needed, serious. It's like serious cuts, serious, things that are not needed, that have been gone on too long. All the bloviation, all the extra things that have been allocated are just being, it's like, we don't need this, we don't need that, we don't need this. This is in my way. This is too much money, and this is happening abroad as well, out in the world, in lots of areas. Definitely, it's in the government agencies, spending, people, programs, money, allotments. It's all being, audited and coming down. And this is exactly what's happening. We have these things happening on large levels, and this is definitely serious kinds of stuff. And then we've got Mercury right here getting, conjuncting over to Saturn. So in another day or two, you can see how fast it's moving. Monday, it's at 19 degrees, and then by next week, by Tuesday, it will be conjuncting and already passing. So let's just keep it here and look at Sunday coming into Monday. Moon also moves into Aquarius later in the day. We'll talk about that in just a second. Well, actually, let me talk about it now, because it will move, from Sirius Capricorn into Aquarius, and then have to, conjunct, go right over Pluto, transformation. So this is going to be, serious transformation. This is going to be, instead of now maybe making the sacrifices or sacrificial cuts, it will be things I knew I should have done, should have been done long ago. This will be good for all, as Moon goes over there. But then back to Saturn, or Mercury going over Saturn, conjuncting Saturn in Pisces. This is dissolving. This is like a serious, it's a serious mind and attitude, or it's a sad. It could be sad news. It could be something bummer. It could be gossip. You'd be aware of gossip. It could also be, what would be most likely, like some kind of financial loss or big scandal or financial fraud. We've got all of that happening. And then with the moon going over Pluto, with that, um, it just kind of adding fuel to the fire, adding water to the already flowing over toilet kind of or sink. It's just going to spill the cesspool. There we go. The cesspool is spilling over with that kind of energy. And then, it's exact, like I said, on Tuesday, it's happening early today. So those are the big things. We talked more about, we're coming into, a lot of movement, planets changing signs. You could see it's like really starting to happen. And as we get on into the month, well, we'll see how close Pluto is. I'm sorry, or Neptune into moving into Aries. And then Mercury moves fast. It will go into Aries and then has its retrograde. And then Venus, it's going a little further and then it'll have its retrograde. So right in this area of dissolving and coming into the new is really emphasized right now as we have all this transitional energy in this part of the zodiac. um, it's emphasizing dissolving those last little bit of things. It's dissolving, everything from the gout and mineral deposits in your body, in your arteries, in your kidneys, to dissolving things that we don't need, that we carry too much in our, in our houses, in our drawers, in our pockets, in our cars, in our closets, in our lives, on and on and on and on. In agencies, and things just get out of hand. So this is a big part of pruning, what's already been in place. As far as things happening in the United States government, this bankruptcy of the government has already happened, and no matter who would be in power, um, the bankruptcy and the auditing and all of this would have to be done anyway. All of these cuts, all of this is par for the course. So it's not really just like what Donald Trump is doing per se. He's just the one in charge, implementing all these changes. So that being said, the whole world is creating this as well. There's, populist changes, there's regime changes, there's outing of vetting of all kinds of fraud all over. And this is what we're seeing, as we have these planets at that last bit of Pisces dissolving all this before it starts the new cycle. And it's going to be hanging out. A whole bunch of things will be hanging out in here for a little bit of time. Even though Saturn, and Neptune dive into this a little bit, we're going to get their retrograde motions and we're going to come back and then move on. It's not going to be till next year till they actually conjunct and start moving more. But we're going to get a taste of that, just like Pluto did. When it went into Aquarius, it was there in Neptune and then into Aquarius. What I say in Neptune, I mean into, I'm looking at my other one. It was, into Capricorn and then into Aquarius. And then we're going to have Neptune follow suit. And then some of the planets coming more inwards toward Earth. So that being said, we have a very interesting week. Again, look out for any big losses. Make sure that you're not, leaving yourself open to anything. Be aware of what you hear, look for things. And then when something happens, think, is it orchestrated? Was this planned on purpose? And then use this Piscean energy also to expand your own self. I try to find in my quiet moments, meditation, that I can try to not only increase my awareness, my awareness around me, but try to keep a peace, try to keep my space as harmonious as possible. Try to handle people, a little bit better, a little bit more compassionate. Um, Focus on the love, I guess, of everything, of what love means to you and how you can kind of be in that loving space, even though there's something that's opposing, opposite, and different. All right, I guess that is it for this week. Thank you all for listening. Bye for now.